It's so easy to say, I hope to, the tongue slides over it. I think perhaps hope can only be realized by contrasting it with despair, and I'm too lazy to despair. Please don't visit me with it, dear Lord. I would be so miserable. Hope, however, must be something distinct from faith. I unconsciously put it in the faith department. It must be something positive that I've never felt. It must be a positive force outside the distinction between it and faith. I like to order things so that I can feel all of a piece spiritually. I don't suppose I order things, but all my requests seem to melt down to one for grace, a supernatural grace that does whatever it does. My mind is in a little box, dear God, down inside other boxes, and on and on. There's very little air in my box. Dear God, please give me as much air as it is not presumptuous to ask for. Please let some light shine out of all the things around me so that I can, what it amounts to, I suppose, is be selfish. Is there no getting around that, dear God? No escape from ourselves into something bigger? Oh, dear God, I want to write a novel, a good novel. I want to do this for a good feeling and for a bad one. The bad one is uppermost. The psychologists say it's the natural one. Let me get away, dear God, from all things thus natural. Help me to get what is more than natural into my work. Help me to love and bear with my work on that account. If I have to sweat for it, dear God, let it be as in your service. I'd like to be intelligently holy. I'm a presumptuous fool, but maybe the vague thing in me that keeps me in is hope. Flannery O'Connor, A Prayer Journal. This is Ringside, the show where the sacred and profane collide. You are with your host, Ross Engel.
Hey, everybody. How you doing today?
Paul Koch.
Yes, get good.
Myself, Joel Hess, and Tyler, the intern.
Yep.
So I had an interesting question today. We'll pop it off with a conversation on, yes, you guessed it, communion during quarantine. So a wonderful couple at the church here, St. James, Chicago, asked me, emailed, said, hey, Pastor, I'd like to set up a time for communion. And right now, temporarily, we don't have an official offering for a couple of weeks. I'm looking at doing something. And I've not responded to them yet. I believe I'm going to respond saying, wait, I really think it should be a mass offering and not a private thing, to avoid the idea of sort of a private thing, even though it might not be done with, 300 people together in one place. I think, by the way, you tell me, it'd be wrong to offer it when people ask for it, unless deathly ill, something like that. But even then, shut-in communion was a part of the community communion. It was not, hey, this person's sick, go give them the communion, and you'd redo the whole service. I think originally it would be, hey, we had communion, you're a part of the family of God, I'm bringing it to you, which is interesting for our times. Thoughts on that? Paul, do you get some thoughts on that?
I think you need to find a way for your members to receive the gifts of Christ. So,
right.
I think that you ought to be driving towards that as best you can, whatever that looks like. This coming Sunday, the gospel reading is the road to Emmaus. I think it's a good kind of thing to think about. Like they're walking along, they're talking with Jesus, their hearts are burning, the scriptures are open to them, all that, but it's driving towards a fellowship around a meal in which they recognize him there. Like everything is moving towards communion. And I think our Christian experience is just that. So we have what your members want, or what all members want, right? They want fellowship, they want communion, because that's where this drives. To do church without it is lacking, right? It's always a church that is frustrated. It's always falling short. It's the foretaste of the feast is not given, right? And so people are wanting that, right? They're wanting it any way they can get it. I'm sure those people who asked you, they wouldn't prefer to have it by themselves,
Sure.
right?
That's a good
It's
point.
just
That's a good
they
point.
know you're not offering it any other way, so they freaking want the gifts, you know.
Okay.
So they're asking for it, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Unlike the eras of the Reformation, pre-Reformation, where priests are taking communion for themselves, not offering it for themselves, and also I think on behalf of, like I believe, right? I'm taking communion on behalf of the congregation was what Rome was, and I think still teaching. Like the service is happening, so it's okay. It's going on. God's being pleased, one might say, from your offerings to make sure it happens. Quite honestly, it's still a practice in Roman Catholic
But
Church.
yeah, the greatest issue wasn't that you were participating in it, but that
In a small way, yeah.
that it was happening, right? That it was a work to be observed or something like that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, and not open to anybody. That was frustrated the Reformers and Luther.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's natural, it's good that people want it, you know. I mean, this is what should happen. You know, we're not Baptists, you know, we're not
Right.
we don't go to church just to pat each other on the back because we all went to church. You know, we go to church because Christ gives his gifts there. And
we
that's
need
what
them.
people want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fantastic desire to hear it. What do you got there, Ross?
Well, you know, I was thinking too. I agree with Paul. If you've got people asking, give it. You know, like I've had people that I've had people in the past that have asked for things like private confession absolution, and I've said, well, you know, can't you just be happy with coming on Sunday when I do it for everybody in the corporate thing? And then realizing, you know, that's a lazy thing on my part to say, like, just come in. You know, if they're wanting the gift, I need to give them the gift. It reminds me of the scripture. I think it's probably coming up in the near future. The Ethiopian eunuch, where he's like, "Hey, there's water. Why can't I be baptized?" And he's like, "Yeah, why not? We should give it to you." So I would say, you know, in the case of this couple that's asked, commune him and find a way to make it available for everyone in the church to either set up an appointment for it or you take it to them or something. Because, if they're hungering and thirsting for it, that's a good sign that they need it. And
it's hard to say no to that.
It really is.
That.
Yeah, like, Pastor, I really need communion. Okay, let's make that happen.
I mean, I would say it is different than baptism, which is saving and necessary, or forgiveness,
but if they're in a place
or
where they need
like
assurance,
Lord, but it's different than I need forgiveness for that, and you're denying it or saying no, we have to wait. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think you can measure those out if you have to.
I do think too, though, this is it's too simplistic to say it's not necessary. Like I understand the argument, like it's not commanded the way, say, like baptism is, right? But that doesn't mean it's actually not necessary for the nurturing the life of the believer. And I think, you know, people these days, like, you know, just like everyone always wants to rush to be the next Martin Luther, these days everyone seems to be in this big rush to be kind of the frontier church or out on the outskirts. Oh, remember they would go like a year without communion until the circuit rider. Well, listen, that's not the situation. Like,
we can do it.
We can do it. Just you're you know, we've decided you know, through whatever pressures or whatever, we're not going to do it. So now I know not everybody can, right? I wrote about this a few weeks ago about like the shut-ins, you know, that, you know, in essence, everyone's a shut-in right now. And what everyone is realizing is the lie that we always believed about the shut-ins. Like, if we can just get the service to them via, you know, some means, but they can't use the computer, and so it's all frustrating. No, what they want is the fellowship of God's people. And now those are the people I absolutely cannot see. Because they're in, most of them are in facilities that are absolutely locked down. Like I can't even, it's not even an option, right? So it's to say it's not necessary is I think it's
That's a dangerous word just to say. Yeah, I think you're
yeah, and
absolutely right.
I've heard people use that and talk that way, like, oh,
That's too
baptism
much.
is what necessary, but it is necessary in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
I think it's one of those things where those of us, who work in the church, we may be oftentimes too close to the gifts that we forget how crucial they can be.
Yeah. That's a good point.
That word necessary reminds me of the same conversation with good works, where our flippant answer is good works are not necessary, they're bad. When in fact, the confessions make it very clear good works are necessary. They're not for salvation, but to say that they're absolutely worthless and not a part of the Christian life is the other way to go. Right. And I totally agree. And that's why I do strongly would say every church should be looking, how can we make this happen? And not be satisfied waiting forever, if that makes sense. And be creative how you make that happen, but not, nor simply say, and I get for like a month or whatever, like, okay, we can do this. Well, at this point, how can we make this happen is what needs to be going on in churches' brains. Tyler, you got something to add to that, or what do you got? Anything else there?
No, I think I agree with you guys.
Whoa!
I think it's awesome. Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Turn.
I think it's awesome that you have members that are asking for it. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, right.
I hope that should be going on at every church. And yeah, I think I agree with both of you from the sense of, I don't think you should be offering it for just two people privately, but I do think you should be figuring out ways to offer it to everybody. So that way everybody has the opportunity. It's not because I mean, to be honest, if I found out that my pastor was privately communing like a handful of people this whole time,
and you thought you couldn't have a communion,
right, I'd be kind of pissed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's the issue that you run into is you find out, other members find out, and they think that it was, oh well, he didn't offer it to me, but he offered it to these people.
Special treatment.
Right. So yeah, I think that's the important part, is making sure that it's available as soon as possible to everybody.
Yeah.
Whatever way that needs to be.
It kind of like, I've never like officially closed anything. I've not been loudly saying, hey, this is still open per se, although doors are open. We have people coming and going. But I think I would like to very vocally or make it really clear so everyone kind of knows at least once here that if you want communion, get a hold of me or something like that. And then I think it's open, and then go from there. We probably will have a few. Well, who knows? I shouldn't say that. People are they're all over the place here. Our parks are packed here.
People, well, it's interesting. Like you mentioned that. So on Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, I had a lady from the church called me up and said, Pastor, it seems weird to watch church online. If we show up, will you turn us away? Weird. And I'm like, no, I will not turn you away.
Can't. Yeah, I don't know if you can do that.
And she's like, okay. So she showed up. She and her daughter showed up for church, and we had a few other people that did that same thing. So we had a few extra people that showed up. And I think that's okay. If the people are hungering and thirsting to hear the word and receive the sacraments, that's a good place to have your people.
Yeah. And you're not flaunting,
right.
Whatever.
Like,
at the same time.
Government.
Right. I mean, it might be coming time for that, but, all right. Hey, fantastic. So, get out there, give them the gifts. They need them now more than ever, quite frankly. Let's see here. Especially for all those that are so thinking that they say they really want everybody to have communion, so they do the internet communion thing. Why wouldn't you you're not really risking your life, quite frankly, that much by telling people, instead of doing the internet communion thing, saying, we're going to talk about it right now. Please come by this week, get a hold of me. Most churches can do that. And I'll give you communion personally, and you can even do it in a safe way if you want or whatever. Why aren't they not doing that? All right, okay. Next issue here is Paul. You just wrote this thing, Safety Dance, today in the Jagged Word.
Yeah, great title, right?
Yes, fantastic. Right? I mean, I immediately read it because of the great title. I thought it was the song too, maybe that Paul's going to sing a song for us.
I did put a quote in there from it. I quoted some lyrics.
That's right. Give us the gist of that. Let's talk about that, the safety as a virtue. I love that conversation. What's the gist of what you're writing there? Check out thejaggedword.com if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Check out that and read it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, we've kind of talked around this, I think, a lot, but I think one of the things that I really struggle with is it was kind of like the encouragement is to do nothing, right? And the greatest virtue is to be safe.
Yeah.
And I just have a problem with that. And I think it's kind of gone too far. And like I'm one of those who I absolutely refuse to wear a mask. Now,
Sure.
if I worked at a place where they required me, that's different, but I don't.
Yeah, okay.
And I will not. Like, we have grocery stores here that are now requiring you, because it's not mandated by our benefactors yet. So, I'm not going to do it because I think that's just weak and silly, and I want to be able to take my own risks. And I think, like, you as a man should be able to calculate your own risk and say, okay, I know this is the danger. I know how you can track this. Like, they've laid it all out. None of that's news anymore. So just let me take my risk, right? And that danger is part of the joy of sort of living our life. And those virtues of, like, kind of resilience and fortitude, those things should be championed over simply being safe. And, it's like I said, I want my kids to be safe, but that safety is like a calculation that you put into living a life that engages in dangerous things, so so you got to do that. But what I think part of the struggle for me is that I think all that's been taken kind of away. Like, no one expects you, but we basically all live now in America in our mother's bosom, right?
Yeah.
And
we've been doing this for a while.
Cares for us, and so it's kind of we can't trust you to make any decision, and it is getting weird now. So you go around, I go for runs now in the morning, and I pass people out walking outside by themselves with a face mask on, and you come running by with no face mask, and they, like, move way away from you, like you're gonna just wipe them out, right? And one of the things I said is, like, that COVID-19 hasn't changed the fact that this is how people get sick. Like, this happens all the time. Like, we get disease from other people. That's part of the danger and the risk of living amongst other people, and so I think I don't know. I just kind of wrote, just kind of like, it wasn't like to convince anybody of anything, just kind of like me struggling with this. Yeah, I don't know. It seems to it's gotten a lot of views. People like it, so we'll see.
This has not been a couple of things. The mask is worn, and this would be the argument. It's not for you or protecting. It's not really protecting you at all. It's to stop you from getting someone else sick, I think, is the only reason. And second, it's bigger than that. And this is where the theory starts coming in, where you start losing it a little bit. And that is to stop spreading it, so that less people are getting sick. And that's where I think it becomes theoretical and weird, because we're pushing back all the time the peak for deaths. And the reason why is because we're not spreading it, because we're all home. So we're not really actually doing anything, improving anything. We are helping maybe the healthcare system, perhaps. It's not improving, actually. In other words, people are going to get sick with this. It's going to happen. And we're just avoiding it. Wow, people don't have jobs. So I think that's the push. But this is an old point, though, right? This has been going on in small ways. We've been laughing at this, like tricycles with you have to wear a helmet to wear a tricycle. The laws have gotten crazy. And I think the principle, what you're saying has been something we've been sacrificing for more and more, that safety and living long is like the ultimate religion of the Western world, and not living deeply. Although to some degree, the transgender and all that kind of stuff is sort of an argument, like, let me do what I want to do regardless of how. There's something to that. So I don't want to say it's all that way. But this has been coming on for a while.
But see, like the whole
Mhm.
transgender thing, even that isn't, it's not let me live my life the way I want. It's I demand that you observe my living as equally as valid as yours or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah,
It's
you're right.
still a
You're right.
demand upon the other.
Yeah.
And
I should be able to be
yeah,
safe and not true or right or whatever. Yeah.
like it's just, I don't know. Like I enjoy a certain amount of well, for instance, like I got my motorcycle all fired back up and cleaned up and running, and I've been riding that every day, almost simply because I'm just sick of being safe. It's safe
Yeah.
is boring. I can't go to jujitsu.
Yes. Yeah.
You can't go to the gym. It's just dumb, and it's sucking like all like the virtue of living out of me. Right? It's just terrible, and to think that this is somehow protecting our citizenry is just, I think, asinine. I think the amount of spiritual, mental problems that are going to come from this kind of living and this sort of demand upon people, taking their choices kind of out of their hands and kind of requiring everyone to live this sort of limp and weak life it's going to do damage, and especially that then other, our virtue signalers will be shouting that this is the only holy way to go, right? Stay home
That's a danger.
is the great cry of our age. Well, I'm not going to stay home. If there are places open, I'd be the first one there to go in. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. And it's I don't know. At some point, it just gets to be too much. And now I don't live in New York. I don't live where they're stacking bodies. So maybe if I did, it would be different. But I don't.
Yeah.
Even that though is proving the peculiarity of, like, I'm in Chicago and it's nothing like that, and we have nobody has as dense a population as New York does, but we have a variance of that. And it's not even there is no major issue. There's a lot apparently. Well, it's just like, I think it's like 2,000. It's not that many people even that died. Ross, you have thoughts on that? Safety versus living.
Yeah, everybody loves safety. I think it's one thing to choose for yourself to make safe decisions, right? So if I choose to wear a mask for my own safety or for my own reasons, that's one thing. But if I choose to not, I shouldn't. Other people have no business telling me that I need to wear a mask, right? I mean, I think it's time we adopt the cry of the pro-choice movement: my body, my choice, right? Because this actually is my body, and if I want to take a risk with it, then I'm going to take a risk with it. And those masks that people are wearing, unless it's an N95 mask, it ain't doing anything, right? I mean, you're actually
not much.
I mean, they clearly do something. It's a mask. It's got to do something. That's why they have them. That's not the point. The point is, who cares? Like,
who cares in the first place?
If you want to take that risk, you should take the risk. If you don't, then don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
That's a good point.
I think if we were actually doing all that, and you said this before, I think last time, Paul, all this stuff's fine. I think it's great. The government should be saying social distance, all those things. But when you say you have to, first of all, that will get the job. For the most part, that would stop a lot of people and things would slow down. But when you start saying you have to,
did,
now that concerns me.
Yeah.
Because now it sounds like a law, like
Sweden,
our law.
Right?
Yeah, Sweden. Somewhere else, they said the same thing. I think Latvia was talking to one of our
Sweden, they just gave they said that's what we're going to do, shut down a couple big places, and then like all the bars, all the coffee shops, cafes, everything stayed open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're doing overall better.
Yeah, people died, but it wasn't, they didn't kill their economy.
Even if they're doing the same, they're not out of work, et cetera. So, but I think there's a deeper thing that you're talking about. It has nothing to do with the economy or Republican, Democrat. It is, this is something that's been going on in our society for a while. Sacrifice everything for safety, raising your kids, safety. Who cares about Jesus, quite frankly? I want my kids to have a good college education, stay out of drugs so they don't die. I want them to be a Christian. Why? Because Christianity is probably safer. They won't do behavior that'll hurt them. I don't know where this is. This a past thing? Like, is this something we've seen in society before? Do we have the technology now to do this? Or is this a philosophical argument that goes back to ancient Greece? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know.
We
if I've
should
ever seen
be
it
trying
before.
to find things that are hard to do and challenge ourselves, and living
Right.
in safety and luxury is not, it's not healthy to do, actually. And it's that whole idea that, if you make everything completely sanitized and safe, that's, kids that never eat dirt end up being the kids that have terrible allergies, and they go outside and suddenly their skin flakes off. There's something to wrapping someone in bubble wrap, and then they can't function in the world. And I think this feeds into our entire culture of a desire for someone to tell us what to do and not to do, a nanny state type of thing. But also fits into the ability of us wanting to gain the approval of others by keeping up with them. Am I doing enough? Right? Am I we talked some months back that there's this sort of feeling of everybody wants to be enough. They want to like, I think we talked about Christmas time. Everybody wants to brag in their Christmas letters how busy they are, and I can't believe I even take the time to do this. And this is just another symptom of that sort of thing. Well, not only do I have the hand sanitizer, but I wear the mask, and I've got, and so it becomes a point of bragging, and I'm better than you because I'm doing this. And that just fits into our entire culture right now. A culture of one-upmanship, a culture of making people feel as though they're not doing enough or they aren't enough. And so the safety thing is just one more facet of that.
Yeah, because you'd always be more safe. You'd always be safer. That's dangerous. That's a dangerous virtue. Safety.
It's a terrible way to live life.
All right. Let's see here. As I'm looking up something else, how's everybody's drinking situation going on right now? Any advice for our listeners? Drink more. Ross began our conversation before we went live here that he was very proud of himself for not drinking one day. So
yesterday I did not drink yesterday. Yeah.
And I know how you feel. I'm not really purposeful. I don't care. I will say it's taking the edge off things, but it also, you gain weight.
Oh yeah,
all kinds of stuff from drinking.
I couldn't fall asleep last night though, so I'm thinking I might just go back to drinking.
Yeah, it's not good for your health to stop.
Not
Anybody
good for
else?
my health. And besides, whiskey kills corona.
That's what I'm sure it can't be bad. Whiskey
sure does,
wine.
right?
Well, no, it's beer before liquor, never sicker.
That's thank you very much. So
you
that's
have
our
Corona before a whiskey, and then you get really sick.
That's our health moments with Ringside. Health moment with Ringside. Dr. Tyler Osmond on alcohol.
There's your health moment of the day.
What do you got? What's everybody doing to keep fit, to keep their body moving? What's going on? I've heard a couple of little things, but anybody found, has anybody discovered a couple of problems that they're not being as physically fit as they used to be? Or I think the other danger is there's no order to your life. And when order disappears, purpose, etc. It's just like military. A lot of times military guys are sitting around without purpose, waiting. And it's high. That's one reason I believe there's high suicide rate, because there's training for nothing. And I got a buddy up there in Alaska dealing with that right now. Anyhow, what are you guys doing? Physical fit and keeping order in the house. You do anything special to keep things moving in your domain as kings of your domain? What do you got?
So I've been doing a couple of things. I've got, so I started running again, which I generally hate. I'm not a big runner, but so this week it'll be 5 by the end of the week. 6 times this week. I'll have run 3 miles in the morning, every morning, but Tuesday morning. So slowly creeping up on the mileage and feeling a little better about it. So that's been good. And then I'm doing a pull-up program as well, increasing those numbers. And then I'm doing push-ups with my son, which has been fun. So we have our own push-up challenge going. So I'm trying to find some stuff and make it kind of a routine, some normalcy. So I've just been getting up early and running right away, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
because it was getting out of hand. Like I went from, when all this started, I was training for a big jujitsu competition, and so
Right.
I was at the gym every morning. I was jujitsu, 6 days a week for out, just tons of time, and I went from all that to nothing, and it just stopped.
Yeah.
And my drinking went through the roof at that time, and then the weight started piling back on, and yeah, so it was dumb. I just like, it was like, I got to find a way through this. And then you start feeling bad and all that kind of stuff. So getting back to finding some sense of accomplishment through simple routine, doing that, getting the numbers back up, starting to feel better. So that's what we're doing. That's right.
I think that's really well said. Accomplishment through simple routine is just good for the brain as well as the body. Anybody else we got going on? Ross, what are you doing?
We started this whole thing off real like I was going to be all gung-ho with it. So we bought an extra set of gymnastics mats. So we did some of the online jiu-jitsu stuff that my school is offering. We did that a couple of times. I keep setting my alarm for early wake-ups on the Monday so I can get up and use my garage gym because, unlike a lot of folks, I do have access to a gym. I just haven't been using it.
You have a gym. Your gym.
I do. I have a gym.
Yeah,
Abigail and my daughter and I have gone running a couple of times. I hate running though. But I really need to start doing something because, like Paul said, I had high hopes at the beginning of this. Before this all happened, I had potential of what I was going to do.
I learned Swedish.
And now I've been, like drinking a lot more, and we've been eating. We've done some family walks. We go out at night, and the family will walk like a mile or two through the neighborhood, but not nearly as active as I should be, or I'd like to be. So to combat that, I've been this past 2 weeks been doing this intermittent fasting thing with the hopes that would maybe combat some of the damage I'm doing to my body. I don't know if it actually is though. So I keep getting myself haircuts and that'll be fine. I've
noticed that you seem to be haircutting. You're cutting your hair all the time. Was that?
And it's just one of those things. I'm like, I can do this. It's easy.
You have to wait for it to grow back somewhat before you cut again.
I guess.
Tyler, you got
a buzz cut.
Tyler, you got secrets there. You got a secret. You did another buzz, let's see. So that's your thing.
I'm probably buzzing it again tonight because I have a big occasion tomorrow. So
what's going on? What are you doing? What are we doing to keep fit? To keep mentally fit?
So I haven't been doing nearly as much as I should. I'm kind of in the same boat as the other guys where, when this all stopped, everything that I was doing to stay active shut down. I was playing pickup basketball Monday nights. I was going to the Y with some buddies shooting hoops there. And then when that all stopped, I stopped. And my drinking didn't pick up at all, but my sedentary lifestyle definitely did. Between my classes moving online and work moving online, and I'm set up in my bedroom right now, and I would basically get out of bed, take about 6 steps, and I'd be sitting at my computer, and that's where I'd end up being for a big chunk of the day. So I've been doing some push-ups in my room every day, and I've been going for walks in between classes and stuff like that, but I can't run. I don't have it in me. Whatever gene there is to make somebody a runner, I do not have it. So I've tried it before, but it's not my thing. I can play basketball. I can run up and down the court all day, but to just go straight up for a jog, I don't have it. But yeah, I definitely need to be doing more because I have not been moving around very much. But I've been trying little things, I guess. So.
I can't believe how many people are running now that very clearly have never ran before in their life. So I'm running around and I'm seeing or walking around seeing the most bizarre running. I didn't know you could have bad running form, like you just run, but I swear the whole freaking world of Lincoln Park suddenly is running. So I'm running around. I feel like I'm in a marathon every time I step outside with the amount of people here running around. It's really weird. And zombie like, So
You just got to wear a bib, like with your number on it.
I should just stop right there. People probably start following, like, shit, it's a race? And I'm behind.
Right?
Then you can have Julie like tie some like ribbon around one of the trees, and she'll hold the other end right outside your house. And
That's
you run
right.
across
Come
the
through.
finish line.
Boom! That's right.
3 miles
some money.
today, yeah. Almost a
You
5K.
probably have someone yell at you and be like, "Hey, you're not social distancing."
Oh, it's yeah, we're beyond that here. Yeah, so I do encourage this, and I need to do always better because of the weird hours now. I definitely wake up later, but yet I'm up way late, drinking and reading, writing. I swear we're watching a great movie all the time, so it's not out of control. It's just my whole time has changed. And I think there's some order here, but I've just watched The Irishman again.
Nice.
Which I like it. It's just I think it's too long, and yet that's where we're at. I'm watching it twice now. Anyhow, maybe we'll do it again tonight.
Do you got both your boys down there right now with you?
Yeah, Henry is here, and Sam, and actually we're this is a good time to get. We're getting a new bicycle, getting equipment for getting out there, getting after it, which we can do here in Chicago. But I think order and waking up at the same time, having that, especially with a family with kids, I think is really important. I think if it goes crazy for 3 or 4 months of no order and just chaos, I think they can be a problem. Or your kid living for a long time. I don't know when it is, but at some point, living for 3 months with a fear of going outside or being near someone or just having this sense of something is over you, they could kill you. I think that has got to be an issue long term.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another reason why we have to, as Paul said, we have got to not bow down to the God of safety here for the very health of our kids so we can have adventurers and leaders. Quite frankly, people that cure this illness. Who are they going to be? They're people who are they're taking risks. People working in the hospitals, I know that they're the ones saying be safe, but they're the ones that aren't being safe. Why? Yeah. Because they have a drive to solve and do something. And we should be doing that in every aspect, or have some parameters of doing that in life, and not applauding people for sitting home eating Doritos. That's disgusting. Anyhow, all right.
I don't know, Doritos are pretty good.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's not tempting, but
man, I think those are. Think Doritos, man. That's bad for you.
This is devil's food. Get rid of chips.
The devil's chips. They so yummy.
Oh, yeah. All right. Let's look at some scripture here, huh? Let's wrap it up with a little Bible stuff. John chapter 21. This is the one story I think seldom gets preached on, I think, actually. I think it falls out of the lectionary sometimes, unlike the other ones. It's weird. What does catching fish have to do with the resurrection? So chapter 21, John. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. I'm going to go out to fish. Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat. But that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they said. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it's the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say it, it's the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from the shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said, and bring some of the fish you caught. Simon Peter climbed aboard, dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. I wasn't keeping count. But even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. None of the disciples even dared ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord because Jesus came, took the bread, and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. The gist of that, like in 2 sentences, why did Jesus direct this scene? What is his point of this whole thing? Let's go there. Ross, some thoughts on that. What is Jesus' point? What's he getting at? Or is he just hungry?
Eating. I was trying to think if I could do it in 2 sentences, but no. So a big part of being God's people is being in his presence and having that familiarity of being able to eat in the presence of the Lord, right? So in the book of Exodus, eating in the presence of the Lord, in the right before Jesus goes to the cross, there's the meal that they share together. And now now he's resurrected, and what does he do? But he sits with them and has a meal. And there's this sort of peace and reconciliation that takes place in a meal. I've heard this text preached in such a way that it was the fishing is sort of an object lesson for what the disciples will now go out and do with the fishing for men and the evangelism and the proclamation of the gospel. That before they weren't catching anything, but now at Jesus' word, they're going to go out and catch and do the thing that Jesus called them to do. But I think there's something to this sitting in the presence of God, breaking bread with him, and I think there's something maybe to even John's use of the word manifest, right? I mean, to be manifested. So typically we don't use that word for other people.
What song is that from? So this is manifest. Like terrible rhyming.
God in flesh made manifest. It's come ye thankful people come.
Come ye faithful people come. Come
but there's also, what is it?
You dumb.
Yeah.
You got another one?
Come you people full of. Yeah.
All right, don't worry about it. I'll think about it. Keep your thing going. What were we talking about there? Sorry about that.
No, so it's I think there's something.
Hey, don't be a Hopkins trying to find the actual words and the actual facts of that. Come on.
Well, we don't need that.
That's not why we don't have you on, James, by the way.
That's exactly why we didn't know.
What? Go on. Come on. What's your fishing story?
I mean, so Jesus is fishing, and I mean, well, Jesus isn't fishing, but so the fishing example is then that without Jesus' word they caught nothing, but now with Jesus' word, the net they can't even haul it in, and yet even though it's so big, it doesn't break the net, it doesn't burst the boat. They have a full net of fish, and
that's a traditional interpretation. Jesus' word.
I think so. I think that's
everything.
Yeah, right.
Here's coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what that Kenneth Copeland guy's doing? He's breathing the wind and blowing the wind of God to kill the corona.
What are you talking about? Is that something going on?
You got to watch.
You're down south there, video. So okay.
Yeah.
So I've got a different idea about what this might mean, and you guys can call me a dumbass if I'm wrong.
You're gonna hit the breakfast.
Let's do that right now.
Right?
You're dumbass.
Jesus has breakfast with them, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
That's exactly what it was. I was
fish isn't just for breakfast anymore.
Fish is brain food. No. So
I'm sure somebody's doing that too.
When Jesus calls the disciples there, I mean, some of them are fishing, and the first thing they do when they hear Jesus talk is they drop their nets and they follow him. And now Jesus is gone, and the first thing they do is they go back to fishing because they're like, I don't know what else we're gonna do.
Right.
Right. That's what they knew. Yeah.
So they went back to fishing, and I think Jesus shows up and he's like, hey guys, okay, catch your fish. No, come in. They get there. There's already fish on the fire. There's already bread. So Jesus is saying, you guys can do all that, but I'm still here to provide for you. I'm still here to take care of you.
I got you faded, yo.
Sounds like mafioso Godfather thing.
Yeah. So they're kind of like, okay, well, Jesus is gone now. Let's go back to fishing. And Jesus is like, I'm still giving you fish. I'm still giving you bread. Like, there's other things out there to do. You don't need to be going back to this because I got you taken care of. Now I need you somewhere else.
That's a slightly interesting. So Jesus is like, you're not going to go back and do that. And I'll take care of you physically. You're talking about like he's just literally just giving the physical meal.
Yeah, because clearly the disciples weren't able to do it without Jesus. So now he's like, boom, I got the food for you.
Well, they were fishing on the wrong side of the boat is the problem.
And
right.
Yeah.
So he'd have to go on the right side.
Because that's how fishing works typically.
Yep.
Paul, what do you got? Help us out here, Paul.
Yeah, mine was slightly interesting. So if you can get like pretty interesting, then that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think
talking?
that the thrust of the text is just the boring what you've always heard. It's just it's the word of Christ. They go to fish. It's what they knew. It makes sense. But his word still is kind of driving it, if you will, right? So, cast on the other side. Okay, and they do, and they catch fish, and so because this is setting you up, right? I mean, it's then Jesus telling Peter to feed my sheep, right? And
Mixed metaphors
and these things. So it's heeding his word, like his word is what. So this comes on the heels of blessed are those who do not believe, are not seeing yet believe, right? And, Thomas's great confession and all that stuff. So it's still, his word is still leading the disciples,
making it happen.
Yeah, and so
they might do the work.
And
work. Yeah,
right. And the great thing right before the doubting Thomas, right, is when he gives him the Spirit and says, "You forgive anyone their sins are forgiven. If you withhold it, it's withheld." Like his word is now going to accompany these guys to go out and do that work, right? So, and so, like, in case you forgot that word was powerful, let me tell you where to drop the net for the fish, right? And
I like that,
right? So I think it's something like that.
Is there? So this is the third time, and each time they are, and I think this is what people are thinking in their brains. There's a couple of things that it's not usually what pastors are thinking about. What's weird? What the heck are they doing? Like, you had the command from Jesus, the first visit in the upper room to go and tell people you're forgiven, I suppose. I'm sending you. You had the second, what's the second visit here? Well, with Thomas, there's a second visit. And it's almost like, and the second visit, what are they doing? They're scared in the upper room again, quite honestly. And then the third one, what are they doing? Well, they're not in the upper room, but where are they going? Where are they good? I guess go fishing, and Jesus keeps on appearing. One might say every Sunday, the first day of the week is the theme we're looking at for John, especially by the time John writes this, he's thinking like that on the Lord's Day. Why are they not? Are they that dumb, or are we that dumb that Jesus has to appear to us every Sunday? Or what do you think?
Yes.
I'm that. I think that's true. Like that's us. Like we can be told something, get excited. Yeah, Jesus, that's awesome. And then within a week, we're like back doing everything that we were doing before. It's Groundhog Day. And then I think the other thing that people are going to think is weird is, what were the disciples? I think so. We got the full boat, the full fish. Jesus doesn't do anything, nor does God half-ass. It's always over the top. You fill my cup to the brim, right? My cup is overflowing. That is Christianity. Or there's nothing, and you're in the wrath of God. You're either under the wrath of God, or your cup is overflowing. There's never a hey, that was a nice meal situation. So it's got everything. So two things I think that are usually brought out. The one is why he's got fish, and people are like, where do you get his fish from? Where are those fish? We got to figure out where he got his fish from. Blah, blah, blah. But he also says, bring your fish here. So this oftentimes, did we hit this? Did anybody talk about this one? This gets interpreted oftentimes as the inviting in the disciples into the ministry. Like, they are going to be successful fishermen by Jesus' word. He's the one that told them where to cast the net, etc. And his word made this miracle occur. But they're going to be bringing the fish, the people, human beings, believers into the meal as he does, sort of thing. Anything else on that you thought about this combo?
I was thinking you were going a different direction. I thought you were going to say, you can make this argument that, Jesus brings it all to the table, but he lets you bring your stuff to the table too. And so you get to help with the whole, like, I don't know. I thought you were going a direction of you get to help Jesus do his job of saving people.
Well, no, I think that is the traditional response. Doesn't mean you have the power to do it. It means you, just like he's sending you, like the Father sent him, you will be doing it. You're fishing, which is clearly by his word. But it is that kind of
Yeah.
combo, like to encourage the church that reads this, like, hey, you can trust and receive the work of the apostles. They're doing my work. They're coming in my name, which is huge for Jesus. Something like that. That's what you said. And then finally,
Mm-hmm.
what the heck do they mean by none of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? Like,
Right.
Why does John say that? And we get another meal too, right? So on Sundays, we see Jesus, we hear his word, and we have a
Right.
freaking meal, right? That's
He
what
speaks
we
his
do.
peace. Right?
Yeah, he gives us peace.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
But why none of the disciples dared ask him, who are you?
Well,
That
by
means
now they know.
They're
right?
afraid of being called a dumbass again by Jesus.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
I think that they still had the inclination to say, who are you? Right? Or
Yeah.
else that wouldn't have been said. So in their heads, they're like, in fact, John might have been the one. Maybe John, because he's writing this, he's like, none of the disciples. It really is just him that had this, like, is that really you? We all wondered. I do think it continues that sense of, like, it was a bizarre reality that they still were not used to, that he is alive and normal and himself, etc., and they still can't get over that. And therefore you say, who are you? Because you look different. I think it's a very normal
Something's
response.
different about you, man. Yeah.
Something's different. Oh, I know. You're alive. That's different. So anyhow, and John loves numbers. So the 153, anybody heard a good one on that? I think there's nothing on that. Like,
I've never heard anything good.
if you want to have like a long conversation about that with Bruce Schuchard, Dr. Bruce Schuchard, you should do that. It'll take maybe a couple days. You will come to the end of it with absolutely no conclusion.
Nothing.
Right? But he will examine every angle.
Jesus rose on the first day of the week, so that's the one.
Yes, that's
he
right.
rose after 3 days, so that's the 3. We got a
That's
5 somewhere.
Exactly how that conversation goes to the T. I do think the third time is interesting because of the third in John, is it chapter 1? The 1 to 3rd day is the wedding at Cana, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the third. I wonder. I don't know. Any thoughts on that? What message is John sending with this, letting us know that number?
This is the third time that he. I don't know.
Maybe it's for,
there's something
for
there.
keeping track at home, right?
Yeah.
For those of you keeping count at home, this is the third time that Jesus showed up.
For those playing at home,
to add credibility to it, like I don't know.
That the days early at the beginning of John, I think, are important.
Yeah.
They set you up to tell you a bigger story, I guess. Yeah. But here, I don't know. It might simply just be that sort of like man, this guy keeps showing up. Like he is really alive. Right?
Yeah. It's the third time. Right. Could be that. I think three is usually the number of gods, and I think a finale. So the third day, and it was the third. It was the third day of the Cana, right? It was sort of like a culmination of Jesus' journey. Was wedding at Cana, which symbolized the culmination of his overall life, which would be the death and resurrection, him being the groom.
So I think there was a fishing competition at the time, and the second place had like 147 fish or something. And John was like, "Hey guys, I'm writing this book. Let me write this in here, so that way people will always know that we won this competition."
This is the third time Jesus won the fishing competition, so he's the champion. All right.
I mean, wouldn't that be funny? Like, if it was something that simple, like we get there and we're like, so Jesus, tell us about the number of the fish. He's like, there's just an inside joke between me and the disciples because I always caught more fish than that.
Oh my God, John has not shut up about that this whole time.
I mean, that's what Peter's gonna do, right? Because John writes in there that the disciple whom the other disciple beat Peter to the empty tomb because he was younger and faster.
He throws Peter under the bus everywhere. Even in Peter's denial, he like elongates it. He makes it longer and more treacherous as we watch Peter every time deny Jesus.
And that's the disciple whom Jesus loves, right? So, So Jesus, you've got to think, must have a little bit of a sense of humor in there because the one that he loves is the one that's always throwing shade on the other disciples. Like,
it is weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. All right. Okay. Hey, that wraps it up here. God bless your time in this crazy time, but it's also very ordinary. Just another crisis on this globe. Been through them many times. The church has certainly done this so many times, getting boring. So relax. Don't get your panties in a bunch. This is not in any way the first time you've gone through a challenging time, nor will be the last. Society does move on, or Christ comes again. You really have 2 wins ahead of you.
Yeah.
So get out there, get after it. Don't be afraid. Hey, like the ladies, remember his words when you're freaking out. Hopefully we helped you with that. Go to church, receive the body and blood of Christ. Thanks for listening. What else we got? We offended anybody. I want to say this, Graham Glover, it needs to get on the show because every time we talk about safety and the whole thing, I know that Graham, you're out there and you are what can be called? You're concerned.
He's
you're
safe.
Concerning.
Very
Graham is
safe.
extremely safe right now.
Very safe.
He wants to
listening,
talk
though,
about this
'cause
issue.
He's listening because he sent me a text after our last episode.
Oh yeah, he wants to fight on this. So we gotta get him
wants
on.
to know
Graham, come
what-
on out.
He wants to know what freedoms the government's taken away, and he wants to.
Oh yeah,
He wants to get into that. So
Graham, step
I'm like, I
into
can't
the
even answer
ring.
that
We're calling you
text.
out, Graham. We're calling
I
you
think
out.
so.
If you come out of your house.
safety.
You
We'll
gotta
sit in my office. We'll smoke cigars and we'll record.
All right.
can't be in the
I'd
same
also-
room with you, Ross.
That's right. That's right.
We'll sit 10 feet apart.
Oh, there is
Sit
a
out on that porch, and then you can sit in your dining room, and you can look at
There
each
we
other
go.
through the
There's
slider
a-
window.
there's a
I got
funny
a church
joke.
table at the house. It's 8 feet long.
There you go. 5 feet wide, soft and down. Hey, chick. There's a great joke from this Latvian lady too. She said in Latvia they talk about the 6 foot distance, and the joke is we have to come that close to everybody. Why is that? So, all right, who we
Hey,
got here?
All right, we would like to apologize to the following: St. James, Chicago, Baptists, the Jagged Word, people who can't take communion, people who are afraid of danger, people who refuse to wear masks, the pro-choice movement, Republicans, Democrats, people who covet safety, people who have started drinking more, Julie Hess, Cindy Koch, Alicia Engel, people who have gained weight during quarantine, people who get mad at others for not social distancing, Dorito eaters, devil's food, the U.S. military, James Hopkins, people who think Jesus' word cures the coronavirus, disciples who don't know how to fish, other people who don't get how fishing works, people who doubt even when they see, dumb people who need Jesus every week, Peter, John, the disciple whom Jesus loved, people who have their panties in a bunch, the 1517 Podcast Network, and Graham Glover.
Right, and Jesus' word does cure
Perfect.
coronavirus. It's called the resurrection. You'll all be cured. Just wait. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Repent, believe the good news. Peace. Oh, wow. Wow.
Rain is falling on the ground, turning roads into the mud. Still we travel toward the shadow land, with our hard-worn backs to the sun. Take my hand, my country child, lift your chin and face the sky. Can only say hello to another day, if only tonight you say goodbye. Lay down your trembling fist, pick up your pace and fly, for the monsters only dwell in the night, and I see